Hello, everyone, and welcome to Kilowatt, a podcast about electric vehicles, renewable energy, autonomous driving, and much, much more. My name is Bodie, and I am your host. And today's been an interesting day. Do you know? Can I just be honest with you for a second? There's a lot of news coming in. There's a lot of news coming in every single day. There's a lot of good, interesting stories. Like 3 weeks ago, I was struggling to fill a 20-minute show, and now I'm struggling to reduce the queue down to a reasonable amount. Like, there's just a lot going on in the EV world, and that's great. Don't get me wrong. However, putting together a 20-minute show every single day turns out a little bit more difficult than I thought. So this is not going to be a 20-minute show. This is going to be a much shorter show, but very focused on Tesla's executives, and more specifically, who's left the company, where are they going, if we know where they're going, and who's been promoted. One of the things that I wanted to do this week by releasing more than one show is being able to spend more time on a specific topic. And I was actually working today, I was working on the Robotaxi event, because now that we've had a week to kind of digest some of this stuff and hear from the people who were there and the journalists and just the people who attended, and being able to actually get a better impression of how that event went down. I was working on that. I kept coming back to all these executive departures at Tesla. But before we get into that, I have a couple of items to get to. First, we have a new Patreon supporter. Now, I am going to likely mess this up because it's a username, not a name. And I don't know if you want me to use your username or your name, but it's either Fallen in C or F Allen in C. I'm guessing it's Fallen in C. So Fallen in C, thank you very much for going to patreon.com/kilowatt, signing up and becoming a patron. I really appreciate it. Thank you. It was very nice of you to do, and it goes a long way to help out the show. So Fallen in C, thank you so much for supporting the show. Thank you to everybody who supports the show on Patreon and Acast Plus. All right, let's dive into our main topic, which is Tesla executives who have left the company recently. Now, there have been a number of executive departures in 2024. Most notably, we had Drew Baglino, who is the chief of battery development. We had Rohan Patil, who is the global director of public policy and business development. And then we have Rebecca Tanucci, who was the director of charging. And if you believe rumors, she was the one that refused to do some of the things that Elon wanted to do, and lay off as many people as Elon wanted her to lay off. And so she ended up getting fired, and the supercharger team was also let go. Turns out some of those people were hired back, because if you just randomly fire an entire team, there are some people who have, who are the only ones that have the experience to run certain software, or there are certain processes, or there are things in the works that, it's just kind of bad form to let go an entire team and then try and hire them back. But that's what Tesla did. Anyway, the supercharger team was moved over. Those who were hired back, they were moved over to Tesla Energy, and they kind of hung out with the Tesla Energy folks. So yeah, those are the people that left this summer. And I tend to not make a big deal when an executive leaves a company. It doesn't matter if it's Tesla or whoever. These jobs come with a tremendous amount of stress, and I'm sure it's not easy to work as, an executive or higher up at any company, and then add, Elon into the mix, right? Elon is known to be hardcore by his own, how he describes himself sometimes, or how he chooses to do things, which I'm sure can be challenging. But if I'm being honest, that's not a work environment I would like to work in. That sounds absolutely awful. And it's not just Tesla. I've heard stories about Apple and other companies as well, that just kind of this hard driving, hard charging. We're a big company, but we're trying to function like a startup, that kind of environment. Some people thrive in that. I don't think I would thrive in that. And it has to be honestly exhausting for everybody involved, including the people's families. It can't be easy. So my point in saying that is, don't look too much into why these folks left. We don't know why they left. And nobody's going to say anything bad about Tesla, especially at this, high level. You might get some people at lower levels that when they walk out the door, they air all of their grievances, let's say. But these folks aren't going to do that because they want to be hired somewhere else later on in their career. And if they walk out of Tesla and they have a bunch of complaints and say a bunch of stuff that may or may not be true, it's going to be harder to get hired somewhere else. So Tesla had a number of executives depart right before and a little bit after the We Robot event. And I should say that some of these executives left during the summer and we're just now finding out about it. So that's also a little bit of an interesting deal. Um, so let's start off. We have Nagesh Saldhi, who was the chief information officer. And I think we talked about this recently, but he helped spin up the data centers in Texas and New York, and that we all know the data centers have, everything to do with AI and full self-driving for Tesla. So that's kind of an important position and an important person. And he did a ton of other things, but those are just the highlights right before he left. And then we have Joss Dings, who is the director of public policy, and his job was working on autonomous driving regulations. He worked on clean vehicle and fuel credits. He had a lot to do with making European chargers more accessible. And I think most of these people have been there from, like 7 to, let's say, 10 years, from what I can gather from the articles and looking at their LinkedIn pages. So they've been there for a while. And then we have Mark Van Imp, who was the Global Vehicle Automation and Safety Policy Lead. This is another kind of important job if you are doing a cybercab or robotaxi. He worked with regulators on autonomous vehicle legislation and regulation. And while he is leaving Tesla, he is sticking around in the X family of properties. He's actually moving over to SpaceX as a policy advisor. And then we have Daniel Ho, who is a former head of vehicles program. Daniel was a product and program manager for all of Tesla's vehicles at some point, and maybe not the Model 3, but a lot of them. He worked for 12 years at Ford before starting at Tesla in 2013, excuse me. And he worked on the robotaxi program according to his LinkedIn profile, and there was a LinkedIn post in there as well. He is headed to Waymo as a program director. And then we have David Zhang, who, interesting, was a chemical engineer, but for Tesla, he actually did some business analysis stuff. He was also a program manager for Model S and X, Model Y, Cybertruck. His last position, he worked on Roadster and Next Gen Vehicle program. So his role touched a lot of, current Tesla products and future Tesla products as well. He's actually one of those folks that left in July but didn't update his LinkedIn profile until recently. So we've talked about some of the departures. Let's talk about some of the promotions within Tesla. Ashok Elaswamy was promoted to VP of AI software. He was working as autopilot director. He's actually spoken at a lot of Tesla events, and I think this is a good pick. I mean, I honestly don't. My information is limited, but I really like him, and he's able to take complicated topics and distill them down for a moron like me to understand them. So understand the topics. So he's worked with Tesla for 11 years. He's now, like I said, VP of AI software. And then next we have Omid Afshar, who is this is kind of a weird promotion. He worked in the Elon Musk's office. One of the ways that some of the articles that I read described his position was he was kind of like chief of staff of, the office of the CEO. So for Elon, he will now transfer into VP of operations in North America and Europe, and he'll be in charge of sales and manufacturing. Some of the things that I've kind of heard kicked around a little bit here and there is that Elon is putting people in positions that are blindly loyal to him. So he's forcing people out, and he's putting people in those positions that believe in the cult of Elon, which is the way one article put it. Maybe. Again, I'm not going to read too much into why people left the company or why certain people are being promoted to different positions. I will say, from what I've seen of this person, of Omid, he seems to be really smart. I don't know if he's qualified to be in that position, just because, again, I'm not qualified to be in that position. Not what I know. But people are using his name as a reason, or as a catalyst to say, Elon is stacking the deck with people that are loyal to him or believe in what he's doing. And sure, it's probably a lot of CEOs do that. I wouldn't, again, read too much into this. It may be that Elon's making a huge mistake and completely, stacking the deck with sycophants, but it's not something I necessarily see. Now, I'm going to say that there is a little bit of a uh, Omid has been in a little bit of hot water, let's say, in the past. I don't know if you remember, but a few months ago, we talked about someone at Tesla ordering something called special glass for a secret project. And nobody knew what that meant. So Tesla's finance department, as you should, flagged the purchase as suspicious, and an internal investigation was performed, and Omid was found to be one of the people responsible for ordering that class. Now, keep in mind, he works in Elon's office, like chief of staff for Elon's CEO office. From what I've read, and I don't know this to be true or not, this is just what I read, other people were fired, but he was not. And while we don't know what that special glass was for, what the secret project was, in Walter Isaacson's book, Elon confirmed that he wanted to build a glass house in Austin. And, after Tesla flagged this, Tesla Finance flagged this purchase and a bunch of people got fired, the house didn't really go anywhere. Are those two things related? I don't know. But those are two things that happened. So we'll just keep it at that. And I have one more person to talk about. This Omid was actually supposed to be the last person, and right before I recorded this, there was another person who got promoted at Tesla. So I'll get to them in just a second. But I really want to iterate here that it's important not to look at these promotions or departures with a conspiracy lens. In almost every case, if you sat down and talked to these people or the people making these decisions, and when it comes to promotions, it is there are probably really good reasons for it. Like, do I believe that Elon would put people who are loyal to him in positions of power? Absolutely. He's done it on the board. I absolutely believe that. Is Elon going to put people in, let me say it this way. Is Elon going to put unqualified people in high positions because they're loyal to him? No. If he had a choice between two people, maybe even three people who had roughly the same qualifications and could, more or less do as good of a job as the next one, and there was one that was particularly loyal, or one that he liked more than the other two, then yeah, I think he absolutely would. I don't know that there's a lot of people out there who wouldn't think he would do that. But just because these people may or may not have a good relationship with Elon does not mean they're not qualified to be in those positions, is really the point I want to make. And now that I have said that, let's go ahead and talk about Tesla's final promotion, or at least the final one I've heard of, is Tesla's former director of Optimus and autopilot engineering, Milan Kovac. He has been promoted to VP of Optimus, and he actually started with the autopilot team and worked his way through the company. So that's cool. Also, I would like the title VP of Optimus. That sounds pretty bad. A. So sounds like a good title to have. All right, that is it for our news. I do want to say once again, thank you to Fallen in C. Thank you so much for supporting the show on Patreon. I really appreciate that. And if you have any issues or you have any questions or whatever, please reach out to me. It's Bodie, Bodie, at 918digital.com. Like if you need help with your RSS feed or whatever you need, and that goes for anybody, just shoot me an email. And speaking of people who support the show, I actually got to have lunch with Bruce today, Bruce W., who's a Patreon supporter. And we had a really nice lunch at this restaurant called Seasons 52. It's one of my favorite places to go and have lunch. Actually, there's a weird story about Seasons 52, if I could just kind of digress for a little bit. I used to work for a video game company that was here in Phoenix called Rainbow Studios, and we made the pro wrestling games, WWE, and then they also made ATV versus MX Unleashed. And I didn't do anything really with ATV versus MX. I was on the mocap team for the WWE game, motion capture team, and we had a meeting with one of the guys from the main studio, and it was a meeting about a side project. And this guy wanted to meet at Seasons 52. And I made so little money at the time that I could barely afford an appetizer at that place. And it's not particularly expensive. It's not cheap, but it's not particularly expensive. So when I was actually able to afford to eat there, it really had I get good feelings from being able to eat at that restaurant. It's a very nice low key restaurant, but it's very well decorated. It feels nice inside. So yeah, I was lucky enough to go to lunch with Bruce and his family, his son, his daughter-in-law, and his wife, and we just had a really nice time. And I feel very grateful that I got to experience that. And Bruce at the very end gave me this really cool challenge coin. It was a really nice time. So Bruce, thank you so much for reaching out and telling me you're going to be in the area so that that could happen. It was really nice. And you know what? Bruce's family, they don't know who I am. And they were there, and they couldn't have been lovelier to hang out with. So thank you to Fallen in Sea, and thank you to Bruce and your family. I would mention everybody by name, but I'm not sure if everybody wants to be mentioned by name, Bruce. So, but thank you. It was a really nice day. I enjoyed it. All right, everybody, that is it for me today. I'm not sure if I'll be releasing anything on the weekend. If I do, it'll be short, less than 10 minutes. I really do want to get through this queue, and I've been working a lot on this We Robot follow-up, and there's just a lot to go through. I think there was like 21 articles just that I had just for the We Robot episode that I was going to do today. So I'm probably through 10 of them, maybe 9 of them. And yeah, there's just a lot of information to sift through. So that will probably come out next week. And then we also have Tesla's earnings call coming out and a bunch of other companies' earnings calls. So it's going to get crazy for sure over the next couple of weeks. I promise I won't do a show every single day until every piece of news is covered. But I'm challenging myself, and hopefully you like listening to these shows. If you don't, that's okay. You feel free to skip them. Don't skip the Tuesday and Friday episodes, but feel free to skip all the ones that you're not finding interesting. And yeah, that's it. All right, everybody. Thank you again. I just to share a little bit of my gratitude with you. I feel extremely blessed to be able to do this. I feel extremely blessed to be able to meet. And Bruce isn't the first person I've met with. I've met with tons of people throughout the years. I don't always mention it, but I've had the opportunity to meet with quite a few, not tons, quite a few people over the last couple of years, and it's always great to see you, to interact with you. I was chatting with somebody on Facebook today, Facebook Messenger. And I've chatted with Facebook Messenger. Actually, I was pretty dormant for me for a couple of years, and all of a sudden it's just kicked up. And yeah, so I love talking to you through email or Messenger or whatever else is out there. So you can email me. It's Bodie, Bodie, at 918digital. You can find me on Twitter It's 918digital.com. You can find me on Twitter at 918digital. I do have a Facebook page with Kilowatt. If you want to message me there, like I said, quite a few people have messaged me there recently, which is great. But yeah, I hope you all have a wonderful weekend, and I will talk to you for sure on Monday, but also maybe tomorrow and Sunday. We'll see.